What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter, Burt, and Ed, bringing you a quick preview of the final week of the regular season. Week 14 has arrived. Rivalry week is here, and there's a lot of action to unpack here. I'm going to go over everything pretty quickly here in this video. But before I do, if you go on to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date whenever I upload. But starting things out, the big game is, for the first time in 5 years, not Ohio State, Michigan. This week, the big game is Texas against Texas A&M. Now, this game has lessened a little bit of its impact because of A&M's loss last week to Auburn. It's no longer a winner gets into the SEC championship game. It's now Texas wins. They clinch that top spot. I think that would probably mean they're considered the home team in the SEC championship game. They'd be the only one-loss SEC team. For Texas A&M, if they win, they would also need Vanderbilt to upset Tennessee, because if they win, Tennessee still gets in ahead of the Aggies. So that's kind of the situation here. But this game is so important for a variety of reasons. I mean, it's the return of the Lonestar Showdown. Now, it's considered a rivalry. In all honesty, it's been the Longhorns, property for as long as it's gone on. Texas leads the all-time series 76-37-5. But it's the return of the best rivalry in the state of Texas between two teams in the state. Obviously, Texas' rivalry with Oklahoma is a better rivalry, but it was last played in 2011. Going over some of the key matchups to watch, you've got Quinn Ewers at quarterback for Texas. He's thrown for almost 2,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 6 INTs against Marcel Reed, who has a little over 1,400 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and can also run the ball, 441 rushing yards, and 6 touchdowns. Le'Veon Moss is the Aggies running back. He's rushed for over 750 yards, 10 touchdowns. And then Quintravion Wisner is the Longhorns back with just a tick under 650 with 3 touchdowns. They have a little bit more of a platoon at running back after the injury to their starter before the season. Noah Thomas is the Aggies' #1 receiver, and then Gunnar Helm is the top receiver for Texas. Both kind of similar numbers in terms of receiving. Defensively, Texas has the #1 passing defense and #1 scoring defense in the SEC, so Texas A&M, I think, is going to find it difficult to score at times. Really, the only game this year where Texas struggled, you could say, in scoring was against Georgia, but that was huge because they lost the turnover battle. So for Texas here, I think as long as they can take care of the football, they're going to be in a good position. They are going to need to slow down the A&M rushing offense, which is second in the SEC with 208 yards per game. I think Texas has enough to get the job done. This is going to be an emotional game. It's a rivalry game. Texas A&M is going to be looking to bounce back from last week's loss, but I think Texas stamps their position atop the SEC and goes into the SEC championship game. Then, looking over the game, definitely a less impact this year. There is still impact, though, for Ohio State. They win this game, they'll be playing in the Big Ten championship game. So the Wolverines have an opportunity to play major spoiler here. Obviously, their season has not gone as they've wanted. They're 6-5. You know their defense is going to be there. You know they're going to be playing well. Will Johnson, I believe, is expected out for this game again. Whether he's dealing with an injury or expecting to go to the NFL, I'm not sure, but he'll be out. I think Michigan's offense really fixed some things. They put together a really good game against Northwestern. So I think that's something they can use as a positive. I think they'll be able to get a little more offense going. But I think I've been wrong the last 3 years. I don't think in the last 3 years I've convinced myself that Ohio State would beat Michigan, and every time they fell short. But I do think this year, finally, the Buckeyes get back on top in this rivalry, 34-20. Going over a couple of other games, the Palmetto State Bowl. You've got South Carolina at 8-3 at Clemson, who's 9-2. Lenora Sellers and Raheem Sanders are a dangerous duo for the Gamecocks, but I think Cade Klubnik, Phil Maffa, and the Clemson defense are a little bit too much. I think this one is close. I think it's an entertaining game to watch. Maybe a little bit of a good defensive game. Clemson 27, South Carolina 20. Couple other rivalries, big ones here. Notre Dame at USC. I think the Fighting Irish are playing really well right now. They're rolling. USC got a win over their rivals in SoCal against UCLA last week, but I'm going Notre Dame 31, USC 20. Then, of course, the Iron Bowl. Always got to talk about this one. Auburn is coming off a major high of upsetting Texas A&M, while Alabama had a massive low. Really one of the worst offensive performances by any team in the SEC this year, putting up just 3 points against Oklahoma in a 24-3 loss. I think, however, they get back in the win column. I think it's a close game, though. I had 31-24 Alabama getting the win. I'm going to bump that down just because of how the offenses for both these teams struggle. So I'm going to go with Alabama 21, Auburn 14. That's probably going to be one of the lowest scoring Iron Bowls in quite a bit of time. Another important game, very important in the ACC, Miami 10-1 at Syracuse 8-3. Kyle McCord has been solid for the Orange, but I don't think he's enough against Cam Ward in this Miami Hurricanes high-powered offense. I'm going Miami 41, Syracuse 28. Finally, taking a look at the Big 12, the most interesting game in this conference is Kansas State at Iowa State. Wildcats are 8-3, Cyclones are 9-2. It's a wild Big 12 race that is totally up for grabs. I believe there's 9 teams that have a shot to make the Big 12 championship game. Rocco Becht has been a really good passer this season, 2,884 yards, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Avery Johnson can do it passing, 2,300 yards, just shy of that. 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He can also run the ball. And then you've got DJ Giddens, who's rushed for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. This game is in Ames, but I just have a feeling that Kansas State is going to be a little too much for the Cyclones, and I'm going to go with Kansas State getting a road win in a Farmageddon game, as they call it. This one was a snow globe last year down in Manhattan, Kansas, and I think it'll be a fun one to watch this year. Kansas State 27, Iowa State 24. So, the last prediction here is making a pick of who I think will reach the Big 12 championship game, because it's been chaos in the conference this year. I think it's going to be the two teams who just played. I think the matchups are favorable for them this week. Arizona State is at Arizona, who's really struggled this season. They've been probably one of the most underwhelming teams in college football. And then BYU is home against Houston. So I think those two teams, if every matchup goes as I predict, including those two, they would be the teams that meet in the Big 12 championship game. But that is all for this episode of College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burnett. Enjoy Rivalry Week. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Have a great rest of your day. And I'm signing out. Peace.